Welcome, everyone. The idea and the inspiration for this conversation today comes from the reality that cloud migration has accelerated across the globe, and companies just continue to invest more and more quickly in cloud. To share a little bit of data on what that actually looks like, worldwide end user spend on cloud services was forecast to grow over 18% in 2021 for a total of over 304 billion with a B dollars. And that's up from about 257 billion in 2020, according to Gartner. Of course, this impacts every vertical segment. And this drives AWS usage in a meaningful way. So we're talking about financial services, healthcare, we're talking about gaming, we're talking about oil and gas, manufacturing, media, you name it, there's an impact. And one of the kind of downstream fallouts of this is that it's become extremely difficult for companies to fill a lot of the cloud skilled jobs that this growth has generated. So what we're hearing is that organizations everywhere are really struggling when it comes to staffing up their organizations with cloud computing professionals. So this cloud skills shortage is nothing new, but it is becoming more acute. There's a survey from 451 Research that shows that over 90% of IT decision makers are saying that they're actually feeling this cloud skills shortage within their organizations. And over the past 5 years, cloud skills have been within the top 3 skills that organizations are looking to hire for on LinkedIn. It's not just surveys and data where we see this and kind of hear this pain. I talk to companies every day who are having to pass on projects and kind of stymie their own growth because of the fact that they're not able to find people who have the skills that they need to actually execute and deliver on these types of projects. Now, within AWS, we believe that the education system is critical to helping build out a long-term sustainable pipeline of people who can go out and help fill this gap. And so we have partnered with institutions like the Technical College System of Georgia to help build out a talent pipeline, and with folks like Accenture, both of whom you'll hear from today, to help really create pathways into entry-level cloud computing jobs that will enable growth, drive innovation, and help close that gap between talent demand and talent supply. So what I'd like to do is go through what we're going to talk about today. And that is more about the Technical College System of Georgia and what they've done in partnership with their government, how they've actually gone and built out a system that is designed to flood the market with cloud skilled talent, what the role of industry with Accenture at the center really is, and what steps others can take in order to actually replicate this model at scale, no matter where you sit, whether it's in the US or outside of the US. So with that, let me go ahead and introduce you to our panelists. First, we have Stephen Ferguson, who is the Chief Information Officer and Interim Deputy Commissioner of Economic Development for the Technical College System of Georgia. So in that role, Stephen actually oversees a team of professionals who support over 300,000 students who are enrolled in TCSG's technical education, adult education, and he also oversees economic development and the workforce divisions across 88 campuses of Georgia's 22 technical colleges. So, Stephen, I'd like to tip it over to you to talk a little bit more about TCSG and the work that you've done there, implementing a micro-credential strategy across the state, as well as overseeing this partnership that I've made reference to with AWS.
Awesome. Thank you, Rebecca. TCSG, in a nutshell, we are a 22 college system, 88 campuses, as Rebecca said. We're within 30 minutes of everyone in the state of Georgia. As we talk about serving those 300,000 students in any year, they come from multiple verticals, traditional technical education, those that are seeking a certificate, diploma, or degree. We also have a mission to serve those in adult education, populations that don't currently have a high school equivalency. In order to fulfill our mission of workforce development, upskilling, reskilling, and achieving higher levels of learning for those individuals is critical to not only enabling the workforce to grow, but also to thrive we do have an economic development mission where we work with partners, customized contract training, companies, existing industry, but we also work with economic development to help recruit industry to Georgia. And then we have workforce development, which is a federally funded program that seeks to work with employers or employees who may have lost their job to get them cross-skilled, upskilled, reskilled, and back into the workforce as quickly as possible. Utilizing those four verticals all working together, we've been able to launch some really exciting initiatives, including our eCampus project. eCampus is this brand new platform for us that allows us to leverage the instructional capacity of any one college to create opportunities for students regardless of where they live. Here in Georgia, we firmly believe that opportunity is somewhat of a right for all of our students, that we need to use our mission and our platform to create those opportunities for students to pursue education they're looking for, particularly in these really high-demand fields. In an effort to build out these high-demand fields, we've launched a new micro-credentialing strategy that allows us to certify competencies, individual kind of very intentional competencies that a student might learn on a specific technology. We've been doing that in technology for a long time, or in IT fields for a long time. That's pretty new to the sectors of common higher education. But with that, that's also allowed us to partner with folks like Amazon and Accenture to build this really exciting project we're here to talk about today, which is an education to workforce pipeline. And it's great to educate students. It's great to create those opportunities, but we have to have employers on the other side that are going to hire these students. We have to partner on the front end with these employers so that we're not only teaching students the competencies that they require, but we're also meeting the needs in really a just-in-time fashion. When employers need to ramp up, we got students in the pipeline ready to go. When we have new employers that come into the state of Georgia, we got students in the pipeline ready to fill those jobs, ready to grow Georgia's economy, and ready to help those businesses succeed.
Awesome, Stephen. Thanks for that. And spend a minute, if you will, just giving us some level of insight into who the typical TCSG student actually is.
So, we have a very diverse student population. We're an open access institution. Our students look like the communities we serve. As I said, we're within 30 minutes of everyone in the state. And to do that, you're talking about a pretty big geographic footprint, but very, very diverse communities across there. The average student today is roughly 26 years old. And that's actually come down a little bit from 27. But what that means is these individuals have been in the workforce. Some of them already have education. Some of them have bachelor's degrees that come back to us for workforce skills. But to the diversity part, over 50% of our students are first-generation students. So typically what that might tell you is they either come from economically disadvantaged communities or areas where they did not have the same opportunities 10 years ago for individuals there. So the majority of our students are people of color. That breaks down into a lot of different demographics, but we can say that there's a plurality that are women of color. In fact, women make up almost 2/3 of our entire student population. We don't just stop, in with geographic diversity, socioeconomic diversity, there with the economy and the not socially, but economically disadvantaged individuals. We do have the racial and gender diversity. We also have a neurodiversity out there. So we serve students. Regardless of what they come to us with, we have a pathway to help them be successful, and that is really what makes Georgia's workforce strong.
Awesome. Thanks for that, Stephen. And our second panelist is Denise Reese. So Denise is a managing director for the South Market. She at Accenture for the AWS Business Group. And AABG, which is short for the Accenture AWS Business Group, is really a partnership between AWS and Accenture that's designed to deliver transformation at scale, really combining the best of AWS services and Accenture's breadth, as well as its depth of talent and resources and experience. And Denise is also incredibly passionate about community services. She serves on a number of nonprofit boards. She's an advocate for identifying new innovative ways of narrowing the pipeline gap in technology, particularly as it relates to women and communities of color. So we've been fortunate enough to find our way to her, and she's been a leader in building out this framework and this partnership between the different stakeholders. So Denise, would love to hear more from you about AABG and the Accenture AWS partnership.
Yeah, thank you so much, Rebecca. You actually nailed it in terms of who AABG is. We are a joint partnership that does combine the resources, the expertise, and the industry knowledge of Accenture and AWS with a single vision, which is to accelerate cloud transformation and innovation for enterprises through the full adoption of AWS services. And how do we do that? Well, we have a one-of-a-kind, comprehensive joint program that is really built to guide our most strategic customers' cloud journeys. We're 20,000 strong in terms of the number of AWS certifications delivered to date. We've invested a significant amount of capital jointly to help with the development of cloud transformation, various accelerators and industry solutions. And this partnership is longstanding. It's been over 13 years of a joint partnership between Accenture and AWS. And that means that we're able to work jointly to upskill, to train both our internal colleagues inside of Accenture and AWS, as well as delivering world-class cloud and digital transformation solutions to clients, both here in North America, but really globally.
Awesome. So Denise, according to Gartner, I'm quoting here, the biggest inhibitor to cloud adoption is lack of skills. Enterprises can't hire and train fast enough. So we'd love to hear from you how that plays out at Accenture and what specifically it looks like inside the AABG group in terms of growth and hiring needs and really what the pain points look like from where you sit.
Absolutely. So, to your point, the indicators that we're seeing from the industry have been telling us really for a while that there's a shortage of IT cloud talent to be able to support those enterprise cloud migrations and transformation that I mentioned earlier. And this has actually been compounded by the pandemic and the need for our customers to be able to really transform faster than what they were previously. And what we're hearing from our customers, as well as what the industry analysts are telling us, is that the talent shortage and the need for a cultural shift are really two of the biggest blockers, but also enablers to full IT transformation. And this is really where Accenture comes in through the Accenture AWS Business Group, but then also being able to bring together the various skills and talents, abilities of the broader Accenture organization as well, be it through our colleagues that are in strategy and consulting or technology, really bringing those together to create opportunities to help our customers to transform, but then also being able to ensure that we've got all of the building blocks to really train and upskill our people as well as our customers.
So tell us a little bit about what efforts look like today when it comes to recruiting, hiring, and then that training that you're talking about.
Absolutely. So within Accenture, we have something that's called a talent and organizational business accelerator. And that is comprised of the culture DNA assessment that we use inside of Accenture. And it actually uses some AI and machine learning to design talent transformation plans that are best suited to a company's culture and to their needs. We also have what we call our Cloud Talent Advisor that helps to determine talent and training needs. And that links automatically to AWS's certification and Accenture's training. So it really is a holistic approach that allows us to take the best of Accenture and AWS combined to be able to craft a talent and training program for our customers as well as internally that we can then use to create world-class solutions for our customer base.
pretty high tech. Can you talk a little bit about ways that you have kind of, given how challenging it can be to find talent, efforts that have been made to uncover hidden talent to complement some kind of existing recruiting channels, what that has looked like?
Absolutely. That's a great point, Rebecca. I think the one thing here is being intentional, right? And so you can't just say that you want to look for talent, or we all know that there's a war on talent. So it means that you have to maybe look in spaces and places that perhaps were not the traditional mechanisms that were used to identify talent. And that's really where this partnership with Technical Colleges of Georgia and AWS comes in. It allows us to really cast a much wider net with folks that maybe we wouldn't have gotten access to otherwise. It also allows us the opportunity to really help with training those students and those folks that are coming into our pipeline. I know we'll probably get into this a bit more later on in our talk, but we're actually working collectively with TCSG to bring students into the pipeline today. I know that that's something that is that we're certainly passionate about, is not just looking at those world-class schools. I'm literally sitting on in the middle of the Georgia Tech campus as I speak to you. And yes, we want to go into those more traditional environments, but we also want to look a bit further afield and be open and intentional about how we train, how we develop, and even how we promote folks inside of our organization.
So, Stephen, you heard Denise, and of course, in your role, you've heard from other industry leaders across the state. Tell us a little bit about how you decided to get involved with AWS and with cloud at TCSG.
Absolutely. So let's take a little trip back. Let's rewind to the beginning of 2020, immediately pre-pandemic. I know a lot of us try to forget that time, but immediately pre-pandemic, we were already seeing the cloud technology squeeze getting ready to happen. We didn't know a pandemic was coming. We didn't know it was about to be exponentially accelerated. But what we knew is that we already had a need for cloud skills and talent within the state of Georgia, within our own workforce. And so I had this opportunity to meet with the governor's office and the governor's chief technology advisor, Anand, and we sat down to discuss not only what we could do about building cloud talent in Georgia for Georgia's employers, but how we could build that talent, how we could upskill and cross-skill incumbent talent in Georgia, but also recruit and retain talent around cloud and build that cloud muscle within our own organizations. That led to a wonderful partnership conversation with Amazon, where we first delved into the Amazon Educate, the Amazon Academy programs. We looked at those. They were ready to go. They were packaged that summer. Pandemic's already settled in. Cloud skills are in even more demand because every company's tried to move online. No one's on premise, and they're not supporting on premise applications. They need to move to the cloud in order to survive, but also to enable their workforce to continue operating. And it became ever more emergent. But we stepped in, we brought our instructional staff in to meet with and work with the Amazon team to learn and do some train-the-trainer sessions on the content was there. And that summer we launched our very first Cloud Academy programs that was born out of those early conversations. And that Cloud Academy really led to the partnership with Amazon, led to what we call a working backwards session, to where we sat down with TCSG leaders, with business leaders, and we went through a digital innovation workshop, not only in an effort to meet this cloud need, but also figure out how we're going to scale it. That led to our eCampus project, where we're creating these opportunities for students, regardless of where they lived. The Amazon Web Services Cloud Practitioner and follow-on certifications were they were the startup of that. So they were the pilot program. We delivered it that summer. We had as many as 7 students enroll in our pilot program. We're sharing resources amongst colleges. We're leveraging the best of the best instructors to create content and deliver engaging sessions for people around the state. That's now scaled up to over a dozen colleges offering these programs, over 195 students currently enrolled in a cloud skills program, but also about 110 graduates of this in less than a year. For those that aren't in higher education, that is lightning speed. It typically takes us 6 months to consider developing something, not to mention all of the accreditation and other concerns that you have out there. What we did, though, Rebecca, is we were able to take this, create it as a certificate-based program. You can come take Amazon Cloud Specialist certificate program all on your own if you want to. But we embedded it within our associate degree in networking program. We knew that the demand for cloud skills was going to extend into those networking graduates, and it would be a disservice not to offer it to them as a specialization. But that let us launch faster. It let us go ahead and add the program or add the courses and the certifications to an existing program out there as an elective, as a specialization. So we had students who were already, 6 months, a year and a half into their program. They're ready to add on these extra courses and get their certification. They're cloud ready. They're already networking ready. Now they're cloud ready. So that really accelerated the workforce pipeline to start meeting the needs. And I really and truly believe that the rapid scale of those programs and of those graduates coming out ready for the workforce led to great partnerships with companies like Accenture. Those partnerships led to wonderful press releases, co-branded press releases with Amazon, with the state of Georgia, with the governor, accelerating those, which only work to get more and more people excited about what's coming, but also got more employers excited. Employers like Accenture stepped up. Not only are they willing to intern these students, they're willing to guarantee them interviews. In some cases, they're willing to hire them right out of the program. And in other cases, while they're on a summer internship with Accenture. So they need this talent. Our job, I mentioned early on, is workforce development. That's what we do. We're typically respond to workforce needs. And in this, we're trying to anticipate the workforce needs. And working hand in hand with the employers, we can give them the opportunity to control a little bit more of what that curriculum is, so that we're not only training students for cloud skills, we're training them on the skills that are specific to what they're hiring right now. And I think that's ever more important, because early on in this pandemic, we saw there were thousands of jobs posted just wanting cloud skills, just mentioning things like AWS. It wasn't specific. They didn't know what they needed. They just knew they needed cloud. Last month, I saw there was 12,000 unique postings in Georgia, but they're getting very, very specific on the skills because they've made cloud migrations. Now they need to implement certain systems. They need to customize what they have. And companies like Accenture need to do that for their clients. So they now know what their clients want. And in turn, they're recruiting for those very specific skills. And then we're training for those skills. So it's a just-in-time response to meet emerging and existing needs.
I feel like that's so thorough. Thank you for that, Stephen. And it's really interesting because with TCSG, you've got all the key components, right? So you've got the degree program, you've got the eCampus platform to enable scale, you've got the AWS credentials and certifications embedded, you've done the professional development for the educators, you have the alignment to industry. One piece that I'd love to hear Denise weigh in on is, even with all that components, we hear this all the time from AWS customers, that probably the hardest thing when it comes to talent pipelines is finding productive ways to actually get entry-level talent into the ecosystem. Really, if companies could wave their magic wand, they would have access to a pool of people who already had 5 to 9, 10 years of experience, right? And so even with this recognized acute need for folks who have cloud skills, a lot of employers are kind of hesitant when it comes to investing in entry-level talent. Some have unfounded perceptions on the value of entry-level talent when it comes to supporting cloud transformation, cloud adoption. Some haven't really defined, and Stephen, you were speaking about this, but it's still true today, the cloud skills that they need. They know they need them, but they're not really sure, and it's a hard nut to crack. And some just don't have the time or really the employee base and the resources that are needed to figure out how to onboard new talent productively, and they're scared about the potential damage that can be done to their own clients, right? And that's it's a real legitimate fear that exists. Others just don't have, sufficient practices for retaining that kind of talent. So Denise, would love to hear you talk about how you and AABG are addressing these types of challenges.
Yeah, you're spot on, Rebecca. It's interesting how the pandemic though has really changed some of the perceptions and thoughts around entry level talent. There's nothing like a global pandemic coupled with a this war on talent that exists, and now organizations are willing to take a second and third look at candidates that they might not have previously. And I think that's one of the it's one of the interesting outcomes that we've certainly seen as a result of this unprecedented time that we're in. But I think what that also does is, as I mentioned earlier, it creates this intentionality and focus that allows us to really look at talent through a completely different lens, but also giving folks the opportunity to really rise to the occasion. And, the beauty of being in an organization like Accenture, where we serve some of the largest companies across the globe. We're now over 600,000 folks worldwide. And so with that, our folks that are new to their careers, new to cloud, new to consulting, they have a built-in training platform, if you will, that allows them to shadow. It allows them to get some real hands-on expertise. And that coupled with the training that they've already gotten that we've been able to influence, quite honestly, with the partnership with TCSG, with the capstone projects that we're helping to cultivate, even getting some of our other leaders and solutions architects involved in actually embedding the type of work that these students can anticipate when in real world scenarios. So they're already coming to their experience or their Accenture career experience with some level of knowledge and expertise that they might not have gotten otherwise if this partnership wasn't in place. So it's a really interesting time that we're in, Rebecca, but it's also an exciting time because it means that we're able to utilize technology, utilize this virtual world that we're in, and really collaborate in a way that we might not have been able to previously.
No, I love that, Denise. And I know your team is heavily engaged with AWS and with the TCSG team on creating those capstones, embedding them in the actual education experience for students in this pipeline. And so that really allows you to do what Stephen was talking about, which is kind of move from more of a passive kind of consumer of talent into a shaper of that talent, actively developing them in tandem with the education system. Which is just awesome to see.
Yeah, no, it is awesome. And it's a source of pride for me personally as well that Accenture is leaning in this way. And, the other thing I wanted to just really add quickly was in addition to the technical component, I mentioned earlier that the people and change piece is often the most difficult when you start looking at training and bringing new folks into organizations. And, the other thing that we uncovered in one of our recent conversations with Stephen and yourself is the importance of those soft skills as well, right? And we've been able to even embed some of that into the training process as well, so that folks that maybe aren't as used to having conversations with C-suite executives or senior technology leaders can feel comfortable and confident as they're going into those conversations and really entering a space that perhaps they haven't had access to previously.
That is such a good point, and that is on the top two list of really every hiring company we talk with. So I'm glad you brought that up. I want to shift gears and just for a moment talk a little bit about diversity. There's a few angles on this, but this whole, I think, initiative and shift in the market is as much about driving and enabling innovation and economic development as it is about providing opportunities for people. And I'm going to share a little bit of data from the US Census Bureau. So 68% of the American public lacks a bachelor's degree. But when you look at just Black Americans, that increases to 78%. And if you look at Hispanic Americans, it increases further to 85%. So thinking about the impact here, employees or potential employees are being shut out of opportunities when companies require bachelor's degrees, whether they're actually necessary for the job or not. And companies are shutting themselves off from potential talent pools. And this is at a time, at the same time, I should say, that a lot of employers are kind of looking at the world and realizing the potential strength that a diverse workforce can really deliver, and then turning around and saying, we don't really know where to look for the type of diverse candidate pipeline that we know we value and we know we want to find. So Denise, would love for you to talk for a moment about how Accenture looks at the role of diversity, and how your recruiting and talent pipeline building efforts, what you're doing to sort of open the aperture and find different types of populations to fill the roles that you are looking to fill.
Absolutely. So, diversity, inclusion, and equity are really at the core of who Accenture is and who we're evolving into as a firm. It has been being a new joiner to Accenture myself. I joined about 7 months ago. And I keep using this word, but the intentionality that has gone into recruiting diverse senior leaders, diverse analysts and senior analysts, and folks who are at the entry level points of their careers, and then individuals in between. The way that we have sought out that talent has been nothing short of amazing. But then coupled with that, also ensuring that we're giving space for folks that are already here, that have built a career here at Accenture, the opportunity to also grow and really increase opportunity for themselves here as well. We also want to look like the customers that we serve. We're seeing more and more senior leaders, be it in the C-suite or a step below the C-suite, are often women. They're often women of color, be it a part of the Latinx community, the Black community, Indigenous. And so we've got to ensure that our leaders and our teams that we're sending to customers actually look like their population and look like the communities where we live and where we do business. So it is an inherent part of who we are as a firm. But we've also taken that a step further and actually started publishing where we are as it relates to our diversity and inclusion goals. That's something that you don't often see, that transparency. And that information is out there for everyone to see. It keeps us accountable as well to ensure that we're not just, this is not something that we're just talking about, but we're actually actively seeking out ways to improve the landscape of employees that are a part of Accenture. So it is top of mind for all of us across all levels of the firm.
That is awesome. And Stephen, would love to hear you weigh in on the role of the technical college system and really the role of community and technical colleges in general in driving diversity when it comes to building that future pipeline of IT and cloud professionals as well.
Being an open access institution, our student population, it looks like the communities we serve. And when we think about diversity, it isn't just about race, it isn't just about gender, it really is about the way people think. And what I'm really excited about from the pandemic and enabling people to work from anywhere in many cases, especially from these rural areas, from areas that have been economically disadvantaged. Now, oftentimes you go to an economically disadvantaged area, you're going to see particular genders and races that tend to congregate in those areas. That's true even in affluent areas, though. You're going to see certain people congregate there that think a certain way. And as we start looking at geographic diversity and enabling that, we do also get a more diverse way of thinking amongst our populations. And I think this is creating incredible opportunities for students. Ambition and talent really isn't, discriminatory. Everyone, regardless of their background, they dream and they have skills, they have talents. Opportunity is one of those things that's in short supply for a lot of people. And moving into these areas where we have opportunities for hiring by companies like Accenture, across the state of Georgia to meet customers' needs. I love how Denise talked about, the employees start looking like those we serve. That's very true in our colleges too. And reaching out beyond just certain areas does get into creating equity and opportunity, because a lot of times those populations, they don't have mobility, they don't have the ability to move or relocate, either due to social ties, due to monetary issues. There's lots of reasons, and so we're creating a really diverse workforce by creating these opportunities for people employment. And projects like our eCampus are also driving that, because we're extending high demand educational opportunities to students regardless of their zip code. And we're very excited about that. I do think the companies that we've been meeting with, companies like Accenture for this education workforce pipeline, is top of mind for them. They want to know, one of the first questions is, what does the pipeline look like? What are the demographics? What is the socioeconomic status? Because everyone has goals for themselves, goals for their life. Our job is to make sure we give them the opportunity to pursue that. And I think we're doing a great job of it. Got a lot more work to do, and there's lots of room for growth there.
Yeah, absolutely. And as you can see, Accenture has been at the heart of this and a first mover. But as people have developed these skills that are so important to companies that are looking for candidates like this, more and more companies across the public sector and the private sector have kind of come on board and said, hey, we want to participate as well. So just kind of wrapping things up here, I would say, up until today, and in some cases still today, 4-year degrees really have served as a proxy for hireability, but they aren't really always necessary for the types of jobs that companies are looking to bring people on for. And there's just been this shift to focusing on skills, and it's opened up the market to folks with certificates and 2-year degrees, micro-credentials, all at the center for evaluating competency, really, and really hireability. Today, we think there's about 1/3 of firms that partner with educational institutions, but partnerships like what we're talking about here are proving that doing so drives impact and drives the ability to grow. This early collaboration between industry, between government and academia is clearly driving results. And there's an opportunity for companies across the globe to take a closer look at what the state of Georgia, Accenture, and TCSG are doing here with AWS, and to replicate this model in order to accelerate the growth of their own talent pipelines. So I want to close by asking the same question to both Stephen and to Denise. Stephen, we'll start with you. What advice would you give to states, to colleges, and to companies who are looking to do this? Anything that you wish you had known before you got started?
Yeah, I think the thing is just getting started, just making the connections. We were blessed. Amazon was there. They were ready for this conversation. Rebecca, you've been awesome, a great partner. Denise and Accenture, the appetite is there. And so someone has to start the conversation. And ideally, multiple people start it. It's really great. When you go out, you tell people about the good work you're doing. It's even better when someone else starts to talk about that good work, right? That third-party validation. And I think that's what's key here is we're out telling the story about how Amazon's helping us, grow the pipeline. We're telling the story about how companies like Accenture are hiring the graduates, putting the work in really high-paying, jobs and creating careers and opportunities for these students. And in turn, they're telling our story too. And everyone telling parts of that story for each other really is an accelerator. And so as a state government and higher education, be the one that starts that conversation, be a part of bringing everyone together. That's how we're going to grow. And that's how these things happen. Back 2 years ago, had I known how, and easy is not the right word, there's lots of work that goes in here. But had I known how hungry the industry was to form these partnerships, I think it's just they don't know how to get started. But had I known that this desire was there, we would have started even sooner. And everyone's looking, it's like, hey, if I could only do this, who do I reach out to? If you want to get started, reach out to your local technical and community college. Reach out to your local chamber. Make those connections. Reach out to the local businesses and industry that are hiring, and reach out to Amazon. Reach out to your partners there, and be the bridge builder. So go be a part of that. That's what our leaders had known, that people were ready for this, and they're all ready to commit and throw all in. So exciting times.
Thanks for that, Stephen. Really insightful advice. So I'm going to tip the same question to you, Denise. What should employers do to get started? And what do you wish you had known before Accenture kind of went down this path?
Yeah, I think I wish we were utilizing partnerships like this for their full value. I think it's something that certainly the times that we're in now, the real focus that we're seeing with developing talent and bringing in new folks into the workforce. I just wish we would have gotten here sooner, because it's necessary, it's important work, and it's integral to fulfilling some of the commitments that we've made to diversity, or to diversifying our workforce, both in terms of the demographics of the folks that are coming into the firm and that are servicing our clients, but to Stephen's point earlier, also just ensuring that we're getting that diversity of thought and perspective in the mix as well. So I just really wish we would have started this work much sooner, but no time like the present.
Awesome. Thank you for that. And to everyone listening, hopefully this serves as a really helpful and a blueprint for how you can get started as well. So thank you to Stephen. Thank you to you, Denise, for joining us.